All right, we're speaking to Dr. Saradha Narayanan this morning. She is the past president and current national representative for Malaysia in SI Southwest Pacific. She is also the project director for SIROM, Clean Water for Rural Communities. An honor to have you with us, Dr. Saradha.
Thank you very much, Bel. It's great to be with you guys this morning, and JD as well. Is it? Bel
Yes,
and JD? Hello.
really good to meet you. We love your work.
Thank you. Thank
Now,
you.
Dr. Saradha, we know that you've done several projects in some of the kampongs here in South and in East Malaysia to provide clean water to these rural communities. But
Mm,
before we talk about the project, how did these communities get their water previously or get their clean water previously?
right. I think almost all the rural villages, they do have a river or a stream running nearby. And that's the basis on which the whole of civilization was started. People had settlements along river beds or along rivers and for transport, for water, because water is life. 70% of our body when we are born is about 70%. It drops to maybe about 60% of the human body consists of water. So without water for a prolonged period of time, you're not going to be sustainable with life
Mm.
as a whole. So yes, most of these villages got their water supply from nearby rivers and streams. And unfortunately, that water is not treated water. So they take that water, they boil it, and maybe they might use like a little muslin cloth or a kopi filter kind of thing to tapis the water, filter the water, and then they drink it. Now, this might get rid of particle matter, but it doesn't get rid of the bacteria, the viruses, and other organisms that might contaminate the water. So that is a huge issue because they don't get treated potable water.
Mm.
They
But did they
get
get
water.
sufficient enough, a sufficient supply of water? Would you say?
They do if it is, we are lucky in Malaysia. We have massive rainfall. Unfortunately, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
So, and climate change is a massive problem now as well. So when it rains, you get flooding, and flooding itself contaminates rivers. Apart from that, the rivers get contaminated. Like the village that we worked with in Long Tanyet, for instance, in Sarawak, logging. It's situated right inside the logging camp. So logging debris, sawdust, they float the log sometimes in the river to get it further downstream. It is very polluting to the water source. So if you look at the river at the back of that village in Long Tanyet, it looks like mud. That's
Wow.
it.
Mm.
So how do you drink that? You close an eye and drink it. Many places they do that. They filter it, but it's still not quality safe water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Being a medical doctor, we know if we drink untreated water or dirty water, we get cholera
Yeah, yeah.
or other diseases.
Mm.
But what are some of the other dangerous diseases that are associated with drinking untreated water?
Well, thankfully, cholera is quite rare. So it tends to break out in little pockets. Quite often, you'll read about it nowadays in refugee camps
Mm-mm.
because they all confine a large number of people using a small number of sanitation facilities, no proper facilities to wash their hands, and etc. So in refugee camps, cholera is always a huge problem. We do continue to get isolated outbreaks from certain areas that are really from like refugee communities in Malaysia or from people who are undocumented migrants, places like that where they really are living together in large numbers
Mm.
and they don't have proper sanitation facilities. Thankfully, cholera is relatively rare. It can be a very serious and dangerous disease. But we also have things like typhoid, which is equally dangerous if left untreated. And we have hepatitis A, which is can become a bit more chronic and long drawn out before you get proper symptoms. But more often, you get diseases like just chronic diarrhea. And these are often it's from fecal contamination. And I say that it's usually from human feces.
Mm.
Because if you look at our very rural villages where they're drinking untreated water, somebody is using the river further upstream. They're using it to do their business. They're using it for bathing, to toilet, washing clothes, everything there. And then they take some and use for cooking and eating. So further downstream, that contaminated water in their village, they'll say, oh, kita mandi dekat sini, buang air besar tu dekat sini, but we use further up for clean water supply. But further up, there's somebody else even further up on
So
the
you're getting
river.
someone's waste further down.
You're literally drinking contaminated water. But thankfully, like in Long Tanyit, they were relatively lucky. Not many kampungs in the immediate vicinity. So the spring that we used to get a gravity source of water, gravity-fed source of water, that was very clear.
Okay.
Very clear, fresh water. You can even smell the water. It's clean. Yeah.
But let's not say water for consumption. What if someone uses dirty water in the long term? Like, what are some of the consequences of just using for washing your clothes or for bathing and things like that? Will you get skin issues?
You might. Actually, that was something we found in the village as well in Long Tanyet. A lot of the little children, if you have chronic diarrhea, now chronic diarrhea can be caused by bacteria. Usually it's E. coli, which is a contaminant from feces. It can be human feces, it can be animal feces as well. And animal feces contamination is common not only in the rivers, but also in the surrounding lands. So you have to be a little bit careful when you farm in these areas, because people don't have domesticated animals so much. On the other hand, if the animals are free from, wild animals often don't have dangerous diseases, except of course we are flying around bats and you get COVID. But
Okay.
That you're supposed to eat the bat to get COVID.
Don't eat the bat. Don't eat the bat. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Don't eat the bat. But you have bacteria like E. coli or Salmonella or Shigella. Those can cause chronic diarrhea. You can have viruses causing chronic diarrhea, and you can have certain parasites. We call them parasites, but they're usually like they can be worms, like roundworms, or they can be like giardiasis or amoebiasis, which is thankfully relatively rare in our populations, but quite common if you travel in India or Africa and so on. So they have others. They have you can get liver infestation with flukes in Thailand. You can get schistosomiasis in Africa. You can get all sorts of funny organisms in contaminated water.
God, I'm so glad
But
I
you
have clean
asked
water.
about skin disease.
Yeah.
Yes. They can, if they bathe in that water, they can get rashes, itchy rashes. And they can also get conjunctivitis, sore eyes. Commonly, they call it swimming pool disease in Kuala Lumpur, right?
Right,
You go
yeah.
swimming, you pick up red eyes from another person.
Yeah.
This is caused by a very contagious virus. So, it's easy to get conjunctivitis from dirty water. The difference between the river water and your swimming pool is stagnant. So it's far more easy to pick up that virus.
Yeah.
River water is flowing.
Okay.
But it doesn't, I mean, like, swimming pool, they've got chlorine and everything. Doesn't that kill everything?
Well, yeah, it does to a certain extent, to a large extent, but sometimes it doesn't completely, or it's not changed. The water is not changed often enough to regulate and control it. So chlorine itself can be harmful to some people.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking the flip side is
Allergy.
that too much chlorine,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Okay. How about for the children? Like, do they get any sort of developmental defects if they consume untreated water in the long run?
Well, most of these people get chronic diarrhea. And
Yeah.
when you have chronic diarrhea over a prolonged period of time, months, you have nutritional deficiencies. You can't absorb your nutrients. So you get malnutrition, protein deficiency. And that in turn will lead to stunting of growth. So growth stunting is sort of an indicator that the WHO and UNICEF uses to measure. It's a health indicator. So like stunting amongst children, for instance, you'll find that a lot of rural communities, they don't have access to good nutritional support, not only non-treated water, but also no nutritional support. They're eating rice and maybe one type of vegetable every day. They don't have a range of vitamins and minerals that they can have, and they don't get enough protein. So, they might go into the jungle today and shoot a wild boar. Tomorrow they kill a civet cat or a musang. They may or may not have any protein. Their protein is usually fish. They can fish from the river, but the river is contaminated. So when we went into Long Tani, they said, no more, tak ada.
No
Dulu
more.
ada emparau. Emparau fish we can get in Malaysia is so expensive. Now they can't get it there anymore. They have to go far away to fish for it. So fish sources are dying because man is destroying his own environment.
Food source, yeah.
Food source.
Did you see this in all the compounds that you worked in? The
Well,
developmental, the stunting?
I know that in Long Tanji they complained that the fish was not good anymore, and they were very small, and they had to go far away to go and find the fish to serve the visitors.
But did you see the children?
The children were short and stunted.
Right.
I'm sorry, I don't have actual
Yeah, no worries.
measurements, but it was clear that they were very small for age. They're small for age.
Okay.
You can see that.
Now, Dr. Saradha, having been on the ground, what is the water situation like in the rural areas of Malaysia? Are there many villages that are still in need of clean water and proper sanitation?
The thing is that I would say Malaysia, we are actually very good. 95% of Malaysia, at least, has got access to clean water and sanitation. But there are pockets in the rural areas, pockets amongst the Orang Asli. I think the Orang Asli make up about 0.5 to 1% of the population in Malaysia. But in East Malaysia, we refer to them as Orang Asal. Orang Asal, I think it's like 50-60% are Orang Asal actually.
The indigenous.
And they have very remote villages. The problem with East Malaysia is their remote location. So they are like Long Tanyit is 8 hours away from Bintulu on logging tracks. Kampung Gana, the other village we worked with, is like 3.5 to 4 hours away from Kota Kinabalu. And luckily, they are not too bad. They are actually villages who were relocated from the jungle interior because they knocked down a lot of the jungle for oil palm farming and so on. So they moved them and gave them sort of nice houses, but they forgot that they have to give them proper water in tandem with, they have small pockets, but it's not adequate to support the needs of the people. So during the drought, which can be quite prolonged in Sabah, they don't have water for 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
So that is a huge problem. And because they're so remote, lack of infrastructure, no proper roads leading to these places, they are left out of mainstream development. We have to target all those marginalized communities. That was our main purpose, because we need to go right out to where the people need it. Easy to do a project outside Kuala Lumpur, in Perak, easy enough. You need funds, you need expertise, but relatively easy to do because it's accessible. This we challenged ourselves. We went to the most remote, the one that nobody wants to do, the one that nobody wants to talk about. Let's forget about them, it's too difficult. We wanted to prove a point that if we can do it, I really think the government must do something about that. It's really their responsibility to provide water, clean water and sanitation to every Malaysian. To every Malaysian, that should be the target.
How big a task is this to provide clean water to the rural areas in Malaysia? And cost-wise, is it very expensive?
It can be expensive. Yes, we were very lucky because most of our funding, 80% came from our international headquarters, the Preston's Appeal. We were fortunate because in the 2018-2020 period, the president at that time in international was Marit Verhoef Cohen, and she's also the president of the Women Water Leadership Foundation as a whole, an organization, which is another NGO. And she brought women, water, and leadership as her theme for her biennium. And because of that, she wanted to empower water projects with empowered women to take charge of providing water in their communities. And Malaysia was one of those that was chosen. We were lucky to win the award. So we got 80% of our funds from there, but we also did our own fundraising. And I must say that we have certain corporates, foundations. CIMB Foundation was one of our partners. They provided some funds. We had Lee and Len Foundation coming in. So we do have corporate chipping in. I think they can do more.
Yeah.
I really think that for all the villages that are located in logging camps, the logging companies should provide this.
So are we talking
Yeah.
about like for the kampong that you guys worked on? Is it in the tens of millions or is it in the
Oh
millions?
no, it's not in tens of millions. We don't, we do small level projects. The filtration system can cost, if you put a massive central one, it can cost 40,000-50,000.
Okay.
We did like rainwater harvesting, which is, I think, something that really many other villages can exploit in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of rain. Why don't we use this natural resource? It's a waste if we don't. Even in urban areas, we should be using rainwater.
That's what we do actually. When we had
Ah.
water disruption, we left the pail outside just to collect
Correct.
water.
Absolutely. Way to go. Way to go, Bel. I'm going to set up a rainwater house in my house as well.
We
Because,
should set up a big tank, just
big
open the
tank.
top of the
Yeah.
tank whenever it rains. We can use that water
You can
to
use it to water your plants.
Yeah.
You can use it to wash your cars.
Yeah.
There's really no reason why you can't use that rainwater.
Actually, residents of the Klang Valley are one of those underserved communities when it comes to water because they're getting cut off.
Absolutely. We were never affected by it until the past year. We've had 5 water cuts.
Yeah.
And every time there's a water cut, we scream blue murder. We say, what on earth is going on? Sack all these guys. Let's throw span out.
Yeah,
let's
but
get
imagine,
Shabazz, they're gonna,
imagine
attack
these
them.
people in the rural areas who had to live without water, or they have to travel
Constantly,
very
right?
far to
Yeah.
get clean water.
Correct.
So it
You know,
really
there's
just
we
made
get
us-
it at the turn of a tap. We get it at the turn of a tap. They have to walk 2 kilometers to get that water.
Yeah.
And although they've got makeshift pipes and they drag here and there, they need education as well because they don't understand the concept of hygiene. And it is even more important now because of the COVID situation. You keep telling people wash their hands. What are they washing with? You need to wash with clean water. If you're washing with dirty water, defeats the purpose.
Yeah, correct.
So you have to wash your hands with clean water. You can't afford to be using chemical sanitizers. It's expensive in the long run. It's polluting because not only do they use alcohol, they use some kind of surfactant or they use some kind of material to keep it in a nice gel form.
Yeah.
So you're adding pollutants to the atmosphere and the environment. So water is the best source of cleaning, but you need clean water.
Yeah.
Never more so than during this COVID pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Dr. Saradha, why did you want to get involved in this project?
Like I said, water is life. And water is a basic human right. It is enshrined in the UN that it is a basic human right. Nobody should be deprived of it. And if you look at worldwide stats from WHO, UNICEF, and all these places, 1 in 3 worldwide lack access to proper sanitation facilities.
Wow, 1 in 3.
And 1 in 3. Water we are a bit better, about maybe 10, 11% worldwide lack access to clean water. In Malaysia, we are lucky. Most of us do have access to clean water. Like I said, in isolated pockets, you don't. So one of the SDGs, all the Soroptimist projects are actually in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So our projects are geared towards achieving the UN SDGs, which are targeted to be completed by 2030. I don't think we are going there. We have to make a concerted effort to reach that. And SDG 6, of course, is clean water and sanitation. So we focused on that. But our current president, Sharon Fisher, has chosen the road to equality as her theme for this biennium, 2021, 2022. So actually starting last year, I would say 2020, 2021 is the road to equality. Leave no one behind. So reducing inequalities is SDG 10. So we can progress in one direction, but we have left behind a certain group, marginalized, vulnerable communities, our orang asli, remote villages, people in rural areas. We've just ignored them. We've chosen to close an eye. So we've got great stats on paper. We need these people to come on board so that we reduce that inequality. Everybody must be on board on this road to equality. And when you get clean water and sanitation, you straight away have good health and well-being, which is SDG 3. And if you educate the women to help you achieve clean water and sanitation, you are targeting gender equality, which is SDG 5. So our project actually is across the board. We targeted 4, 5, and 6, 4 being good education, gender equality, clean water sanitation as the prime mover of the project, and we empowered the villagers working with the women to give them a voice. And then indirectly, because women take care of their families' health, they are the ones who are actually responsible for collecting water for their families. Men go to work. There's a skewed population. There are mostly women and children in that village because the men have left the village. There's no source of income there. So they go to Bintulu, they go to Kuching, they go to they come to Kuala Peninsula, Malaysia, fly anywhere to find work and send some of that money home. So the women are left to take care of their families in a way. They have to fetch the water. Sometimes they spend hours walking to get that water. In this place, of course, they got it from, they can't use the river behind the house. So the clean water has to come from 2 kilometers away. And they also take care of the health of their family because they cook the meals. So we need to educate them on hygiene, on good nutrition. We have taught them how to plant vegetables so that they have a variety of vegetables that can give them nutritious food while preserving the biodiversity of the land. By doing organic farming, we are not using harmful pesticides, harmful chemicals that kill all the microorganisms and destroy our biodiversity. So we need to go on that track, small farms, sustainable farms, but they are using that and it's been very successful, the model. We feel that can be replicated in other villages, rural villages, and that the government should try, and I hope they will sit up and listen to us and say that we should be doing this with you, sort of, So I would say that it is on target with our international vision. It's on target with our Malaysian vision as well.
Okay. But how about for you personally, Dr. Saradha? How long have you been with Soroptimist International Malaysia, and why did you join in the first place?
Right. I've been a Soroptimist for about 12 years now. Before that, I was too busy with my medical practice to really get involved in community projects. And the more I see, the more I know that there's still things to be done. A lot of education. We need awareness campaigns. We need to tell people, urbanites like you and me, until we see what is not there for the others, we take water for granted. We waste water, don't we?
Yeah, we
We
do.
just
I
talk about
complain when the
rainwater.
water pressure is low, and I'm like, oh no, my world is ending.
But
Yeah.
exactly, we have to learn how to conserve water. I tell you, Malaysia, we are the biggest consumer of water in Southeast Asia. We use about 200 liters per day per person.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
And Singapore, I think, uses about 160 or 165.
Yeah.
Thailand uses about 190. Malaysia, we use the most. And when we don't have water, then it's when we realize what a precious commodity it is.
What are we washing? We're not that clean.
We are not that clean. I hope you didn't read that, JD. Oh, gosh. Okay. No, a lot of the water is wasted. I tell you where. Most of it is used in, they say, when you flush the toilet. So in Singapore, for instance, they have devised a one flush and two flush system.
All
I
right.
think
Yes.
modern condos now have it,
Yeah.
right? One flush for when you pee,
Mm.
and two flushes when you have to, when you use do your number two, when you
Yes.
do your business.
That's why they call
So
it the number one and the number two,
Exactly.
right?
exactly, number
Yeah.
one and number two,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So and showering. So we must go back to kampong style. That's when we don't have water, we do that, right? We collect in a pail and then we use the scoop and then we scoop, right? Brushing teeth, we can use a cup and water, toothbrush. Don't let the tap running as you. I keep telling my husband to switch off the tap when he brushes his teeth, but he won't. He's going full speed until the whole bathroom is wet, you know. So yeah, you have to train yourself. You have to train yourself to conserve water. Collect all the dirty dishes together and do it. Don't wash one cup and one spoon at a time. I know your mom won't like it, your grandma won't like it. Apa ni kotor sekali ni, cepatlah cuci dulu. But we are all like that.
Yeah.
But we need to collect and do collective washing. All these will help to reduce water usage, water conservation. We need to educate the school children. We need to tell them about their right to clean water because we accept a lot of things in this country. The quality of water has leaves, when I was young, water was so nice and fresh smelling. I used to drink from the tap. My mother would scold me. She said, must boil water. I mean, when you treat it, you take away the bacteria, the germs. But you still sometimes, the carbon is supposed to absorb the smell. But you can't always get rid of it fully, It's sometimes there's contamination. And in our own Klang Valley, there's contamination, pollutants from the factories being discharged into the river.
Okay.
90% of our water source in Malaysia is from rivers. So if we are not taking care of our rivers, I think, and I think we really deserve to be kicked. We have rainwater, we have river water. Other countries are not so lucky.
Yeah. So, Dr. Saradha, what would be the best way then for us to help or to join hands in helping to solve all these water woes in these underserved communities?
I like what you all are doing because you're creating awareness about the problem on radio, on TV. Pump them with, there've been so many messages about COVID and wash your hands. They bombard your telephone with it. You have news messages with it. It's on the radio every day. So similarly, tell people to use less water. Be careful, be mindful, conserve water. Because there will come a time when we are not so lucky, when we have to have water cuts more frequently. We also have rather low water tariffs. Compared to Singapore, Malaysians pay very little. And of course, Singapore depends on Malaysia for water, so they have no choice. They've also learned to recycle their wastewater, which is, everybody goes, yeah, but they drink treated wastewater, which is good. It's a shining example. I'm not saying that I condone everything that happens in our little neighbor across, but they have no choice. They don't have a source of water like we do. We take water for granted. We have to be more mindful so that everybody moves together. We have to think on a global level. We may have water. 1/3 in Africa doesn't have water, or in South Asia, also parts of up to 35% don't have access to water even. East Asia, another area that like Mongolia, the deep countries, they don't have enough water sources. So we have a lot of water. Let's take care of what has God and nature has given us. Let's learn to live with the earth in a way that's sustainable so that we leave behind something good for our children and generations to come. Don't we all have that moral obligation? I think we did. We need to. We need the animals on this earth. We are killing them rampantly, so much so that so many species are extinct. What are we doing? You know, we shouldn't do that. So radio is a good awareness tool, a campaign, educate people from young to change their habits. And you know what? I think, JD, I think, I'm not sure, but some of my friends who have built new houses in Kuala Lumpur area, they say that Bandaraya has made it a prerequisite to install rainwater harvesting in their houses.
We should, yeah.
I think
Right.
it's like part of their law now or something, or requirement.
That's a good. Thank you so much, Dr. Saradha, for speaking to us and for all that you do. We are really thankful for that.